When someone you value decides to walk away, your body reacts before your brain does. A partner or close friend announces they are leaving, and a sudden physical wave of panic hits you. Your immediate instinct is to barricade the door. Culturally, we are taught to view this panic as proof of devotion. We tell ourselves that relationships are worth fighting for, and that running after a retreating figure proves the depth of our care. Some people internalize this script so deeply that they will initiate a fake departure, storming out solely to test whether you value them enough to chase them down. But surrendering to that desperate urge is a serious miscalculation. Trying to physically or emotionally block an exit does not secure affection. It generates resistance. Even if you somehow succeed in forcing someone to stay, you achieve what historians call a Pyrrhic victory. The sheer amount of conflict required to prevent their escape destroys the warmth, trust, and support that made the connection valuable in the first place. You end up saving the shell of the relationship by shattering its core, and that victory is always temporary. Blocking the door does not resolve the underlying reasons that motivated them to leave. It simply delays their timeline. To preserve your dignity and to keep any future potential for that relationship intact, you must do the exact opposite of what your instincts scream. When someone wants to leave, you have to let them walk. The moment you successfully trap an unwilling person in your orbit, the dynamic shifts entirely. Their internal focus immediately pivots away from seeking connection with you and locks onto planning their exit. This is driven by an established behavioral pattern we can call the autonomy paradox. The harder you restrict an individual's freedom to choose their own path, the harder they will fight to assert their independence. The restriction itself generates the momentum for the escape. You might manage to apply temporary brakes to this reaction. People will sometimes pause their departure because they fear an escalating argument, or because they feel guilty for causing you pain, or even out of awkward pity. But guilt and pity expire quickly. Because the environment feels restrictive, the urge to leave remains active under the surface. The next time they head for the exit, they will simply plan it with far more discretion to avoid the friction entirely. Knowing this, the person left behind often tries a different tactic. They attempt to argue their case by listing out past sacrifices, reminding the departing partner or employee of all the support and value they've provided over the years. This fails because interpersonal dynamics do not run on gratitude. In an economic sense, people remain in an arrangement for the future benefits they still desire, not to pay off a debt for good deeds they have already consumed. They don't lose the benefit of your past help by walking away today. Resorting to an itemized list of your own good works degrades your standing. You are effectively begging them to stay out of obligation, trying to build a partnership on a foundation of pity. That structure cannot support mutual respect. The most stable relationships operate on the exact reverse of this model. You can think of it as an anti-cult. A cult is notoriously easy to join and incredibly difficult to leave. A highly functional relationship is heavily vetted and highly selective to enter, but offers absolutely zero friction on the way out. There is no door to barricade. Leaving the exit wide open triggers a behavioral response known as the precipice effect. Place a human being on a high, exposed cliff edge with zero guardrails and notice what happens to their behavior. They stop making sudden movements. They watch their step, hone their focus, and treat their environment with extreme caution. Contrast that with the safety paradox. When you give someone the absolute guarantee that you will never leave them, no matter how poorly they communicate or behave, you remove the guardrails of consequence. Absolute safety emboldens people. They become sloppy, take the connection for granted, and inject unnecessary chaos because they assume the relationship is insured against their own bad decisions. When you remove the metaphorical door entirely and make it perfectly clear that anyone is free to leave at any moment, the individuals inside that space must take ownership of their footing. A misstep carries real risk. By keeping the exit route highly visible and completely unobstructed, you shift the default setting of the connection. It moves from lazy complacency to active, intentional participation. You cannot generate true interpersonal respect by promising your unconditional presence. It is the clear, permanent possibility of your absolute absence that keeps people mindful of your value. This leads to the absolute rule of the open door policy. If someone walks out of your life, You do not pursue them into the street. If they are testing you, hoping to extract a frantic display of devotion, your stillness denies them that chaotic reward. Parting silently, without argument or negotiation, preserves your standing and completely deflates their expectation of a chase. More importantly, your complete lack of resistance forces them to process the reality of their decision. By not filling the air with pleas, you create a stark psychological void. That sudden emptiness is the exact condition required for them to experience regret. At the exact moment they step over the threshold, the power dynamic inverts. You are no longer responsible for maintaining the bridge between you. The burden of action has entirely transferred to them. If they eventually decide they want to return, you set the baseline requirement. You do not go out of your way to accommodate their reentry. The absolute bare minimum effort required to resume contact is that they must initiate the return and walk back across that threshold entirely under their own power. Allowing someone to leave without a fight is not a failure. It is an automatic filtering system. By letting the ambivalent walk away unopposed, you clear the perimeter, preserving your energy and creating the necessary space for someone authentically enthusiastic to step into your life.